That's sheer balderdash. I've never heard so much nonsense in my life. Do you mean to tell me this whole damn war was an accident?
No. It wasn't an accident. I didn't say that. It was carefully planned, down to the tiniest mechanical and emotional detail. But it was a mistake. It was a beaut. In the end, somehow granted the time for examination, we shall find that our so-called civilization was gloriously destroyed by a handful of vacuum tubes and transistors. Probably 40.
Ah, there you are, Julian, there you are. Now we know where the blame lies, don't we?
Oh, no, you don't. No. Maybe we were the blind mechanics of disaster, but you don't pin the guilt on the scientists that easily. You might as well pin it on motherhood.
Well, it should be pinned on somebody. And you scientists are the likely ones as far as I can see. You built the bomb. You experimented with it, tested it, and exploded it.
Now, just a moment more.
Thanks to you chaps, a moment is about all we have.
Every man who ever worked on this thing told you what would happen. The scientists signed petition after petition. Please. But nobody listened. There was a choice. It was build the bombs and use them, or risk that the United States, the Soviet Union, and the rest of us would find some way to go on living.
Huh. That's wishful thinking, if ever I heard it.
I'm not against wishful thinking, not now.
Look, they pushed us too far. They didn't think we'd fight no matter what they did.
And they were wrong. We fought, we expunged them. We didn't do such a bad job on ourselves. With the interesting result that the background level of radiation in this very room is 9 times what it was a year ago. Don't you know that? 9 times. We're all doomed, you know. The whole silly, drunken, pathetic lot of us. Doomed by the air we're about to breathe. We haven't got a chance.
Hello and welcome to Still Watching the Skies for February 2026. I'm Robert Reinecke.
I'm Dad Morel.
I'm Cody Lang.
Cody's brought along a guest, so I'll leave it up to Cody to handle the introductions.
All right. I've brought along my coworker, Miloš Tomin.
Hello.
Miloš,
Hello.
say hello.
Hello, everybody. Pleasure to be invited in such esteemed company. I was aware of your podcast since, I would say, probably around the time you started, late 2010s, 2016, or I first became aware of on Twitter.
You're a long-time listener.
Wow. I don't think I've been listening that long.
Yeah. There you go.
Matt.
So it's funny how the world works. So here we are all together.
Okay, so every month we explore the lesser discussed science fiction movies of the past. Some famous, some obscure, some good, some bad, some hard to describe, all which we believe will create interesting conversation. And that brings us to this month's film, 1959's On the Beach, directed by Stanley Kramer. In the run-up to its release, Linus Pauling was quoted as saying, "It may be that some years from now we can look back and say that On the Beach is the movie that saved the world." I think we'll have to discuss that quote, but first, Cody picked the film. He's going to fill our listeners in on some of the key points about the film, and then we'll discuss it. So take it away, Cody.
Thanks. On the Beach, directed by Stanley Kramer. Tagline I see here is biggest story of our time. In 1964, atomic war wipes out humanity in the northern hemisphere. One American submarine finds temporary safe haven in Australia, where life as usual covers growing despair. In denial about the loss of his wife and children in the Holocaust, American Captain Towers meets careworn but gorgeous Moira Davidson, who begins to fall for him. The sub returns after reconnaissance a month or less before the end. Will Towers and Moira find comfort with each other? Film stars Gregory Peck, Ava Gardner, Fred Astaire, Anthony Perkins, who I would say is kind of against type. And
It kind of before he had the type.
yeah, and yeah, as mentioned, it was produced and directed by Stanley Kramer, based off a novel. So normally we throw it to the guest, so I'll throw it to the guest who actually recommended that we pick this film, which I had never seen before and never heard of before. Um, and I think I may have confused with another film when he first mentioned it, but I don't know if I told you that, Miloš. So I'll have Miloš give his opening thoughts, and then we'll do a bit of a round table.
All right, thanks, Cody. So yeah, this is one film that I've actually only seen once, and it was on a television way back in Yugoslavia. I think it was in my let's say late teens. It was something like a Saturday night, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to go out or not, and I was too lazy to move off the couch. And this movie comes up. I think it was like 9:30, black and white. And it's like, I don't know what this is about, but like, oh, it's got a submarine. It's black and white. This looks cool. And then wait a minute, this is like a semi-science fiction-y film. It's not really science fiction, but it's does take place in the future from the point of view when it was written. And like Cody said, it is based on a novel written by Neville Shute, who's a British author who moved to Australia. It was originally published as a four-part novelization. It was called The Last Days on Earth. So right from the start, from the get-go, you're talking about endings. It's the end of the world. It's a trope that is well known in science fiction. So basically, the science fiction concept is here is World War III. But World War III is basically just a starting point to tell the story about how does human mind wrap itself around extinction. And there's different forms the way the world ends. And again, when the novel was first published, it contained a quotation from T.S. Eliot's, I think it's The Hollow Man, yeah, which is this is the way the world ends, not with a bang, but with a whimper. And the movie ends with emptiness, the world emptied out of men, but with really, really loud music crescendo. So we can talk about some stylistic and art choices. But I was blown away by the movie. And then years later, I discovered accidentally that it is one of German directors Wim Wenders' favorite films. And while researching, preparing for this podcast, I managed to find a single page of an additional film comment. The second page is not available. This is what the quote is that Wim Wenders also has only seen the film twice. Initially, for the first time, he was shown a private print owned by Stanley Kramer. So I'm really sad that I cannot access that second page because it's behind an academic paywall. And then he said he saw it for the second time on TV, which tells you how even back then in the late 70s, early 80s, when Wenders was slumming it in Hollywood under the firm hand of Francis Ford Coppola, for whom he directed Hammett, it was impossible to find this film, and yet I saw it in Yugoslavia, a socialist country. At the time, it was shown on TV, but Stanley Kramer had well-regarded Hollywood liberal credentials, and it's not surprising he made this film. He was known for making message movies like The Judgment in Nuremberg, but he also made some quite commercial comedies. So watching this film, some of the things appear dated, and I don't think you get away with some of the stuff that goes on specifically in terms of gender roles and relations. And I was actually surprised. I think I've forgotten the movie was actually remade in 2000, and it was remade by Russell Mulcahy, who's an Australian film director, which kind of makes sense. And to wrap it all, this whole end of the world theme and Wim Wenders, it's Australia. At one point, it was literally the furthest way you could get away from the northern hemisphere, the European, Eurocentric world, so to speak. And the premise of the novel is that the life has been destroyed in a short nuclear war in the north, and basically our heroes, the protagonists of the movie, are stuck in Australia. It's the end of the world, literally, and they're trying to figure out whether the radiation fallout is gonna come, and they're all doomed. Are they? We'll find out. But interestingly enough, there was a documentary made by Stanley Kramer's son about the making of the film, and the documentary is actually literally called Fallout, which is my favorite series of video games. So I think I talked enough, and I would like now we get into discussion with everybody else and hear their opinions. How the movie dated, did it age well? I think it still packs a powerful punch.
Mm. Jumped in. My first time seeing it, I had heard of it before. Uh, um, but it was that one that kind of played in the 70s and 80s on the independent syndication circuit. Probably too serious for that. Although, I've seen some of the other ones that were serious play that way. This one kind of seemed too important for that, or maybe too something for that. But I mean, first time seeing it, and then I have some. I mean, really, the way to look at this, I thought, was that you have to look at it as a '50s melodrama because there's really no drama here because they can't really make a decision to have any effect on the plot. The plot is already in motion, and they're kind of just being swept along with it. Like, how are we gonna prepare ourselves and meet the end of the world? And we'll kind of see their reactions to it. I mean, it's kind of a slow motion disaster movie in a sense, but much smarter than the Irwin Allen variety. But it is kind of, we're going to meet these various peoples. They're all in this situation, and it's looking bad for them. And then we'll see how they rise to meet it. And I feel that's I don't want to say it's the whole movie, but it's kind of the main thrust of the movie. Um, I did think that, it is well acted. I think it's well shot. I think some of the imagery is very evocative. I think when the submarine surfaces in San Francisco, there's nobody on the streets, no cars moving, no people. I think that's very effective, and that's one of those science fiction tropes that I think always works. Is like you see the deserted city with nobody in it, it just looks wrong and unnatural and eerie. And it works in here. It works in 28 Days Later. It works in
World, the Flesh, and the Devil.
World, the Flesh, and the Devil. Night of the Comet. I mean, World, Flesh, and the Devil is probably the closest one to this. But that one, this one's in Australia, and they do some things too. I mean, it kind of even reminded me of Mad Max in a way, or Road Warrior, where society had broken down to an extent. Petrol's rare, but we'll figure a way to get these vehicles moving. Um, Actually, maybe Thunderdome to be most precise about it. There are cars, but there's also lots of horses and bicycles going on there. Um, so thought all that was good. I thought Ava Gardner was the standout in the cast, and I don't know much about Ava Gardner. I don't know if I've ever seen an Ava Gardner film before. I've heard of Ava Gardner, but I think this is the first one I've seen. I was getting to get her and Lana Turner confused, but I think she's good in this. I think Astaire is good in this. Um, Playing against type a bit too, I would say, but yeah, I think he's very good, and being a little lighter than I think the gravitas of the situation works for it. Gregory Peck is Gregory Peck, and Perkins. This is kind of when they were still trying to push him as a boy ingenue, wasn't it? And I think he's good, but I don't know if it ever really takes it. I kind of have the ghost of Norman Bates kind of hovering over the whole thing when I watch it, so that was an interesting experience. So I mean, it's well shot. I liked it has an important story. Is it a good melodrama? I think it has its moments. Um, there are moments I like, and I do have to wonder though, is like that Linus Pauling quote is like, did this movie actually have an effect on kind of taking some of the tensions off of the idea of going to war, or maybe making it a harder decision. So maybe in that respect, it actually works. Like I feel like the day after gets a lot of credit. Threads gets a lot of credit for that sort of thing. Human Highway, maybe not so much, but that's the kind of thing I was thinking about. So those are my basic initial thoughts. How about you, Nat?
Sure. I'm fairly on the same page as you, Robert. I don't think I've heard of this before, but I do like a lot of Stanley Kramer's. I really, really love Inherit the Wind, and I like Judgment at Nuremberg a lot. And just looking at his filmography too, like he packs quite a wallop in that stretch there with like Pride and the Passion in 57, Defiant Ones 58, this in 59, Inherit the Wind in 60, and then Judgment at Nuremberg in 61. Like that's a pretty solid run. But in terms of this, it's something where it's a movie that I've been thinking about a decent amount since watching it. It's not something that just like faded from memory after I finished watching it. But I did feel that the narrative structure is kind of tough, especially for a first time watch, because like you said, they're kind of doomed from the start, but also not quite sure which characters you're really supposed to sort of land on or follow through, and they tend to be a lot more reactive. And I think it fits with the overall theme and tone of the movie, but it can be a little slow at times, or at least it's something I think that is better appreciated once you've seen it and step back from it and kind of comprehend it as a whole, even if it's not doesn't have a lot of momentum in any individual part. And I agree. I really like the presentation of this sort of post-apocalyptic world where the apocalypse is not that far removed from the present day. And I really like that representation of it too. Like you said, the abandoned cities, the buildings aren't really in ruins, but there's just nobody there. And things like the horse and buggies, I really enjoy that. Where you don't see a set design that looks especially futuristic, or people haven't necessarily changed the look of things that much. It's just having that juxtaposition of, technology that maybe is obsolete but coming back into fashion just out of necessity. And so it's not anything new design wise that's being created, but it's just comparing things from different times and having them there. That's kind of jarring, and I like that. I think it's really effective. And yeah, we can get in maybe a little bit more in terms of some of the casting, but I don't think there's really bad performances in it, but it does feel like the main four players are kind of miscast. Even though I agree this is before really the start of Perkins' run, he still doesn't strike me as somebody who's been in the Navy. Like he's super thin, and like I understand it's the apocalypse, but you know, I bet he's been fed some. But he just does, he seems a little too lanky and lean to be somebody who's commanding authority to some extent. Um, Ava Gardner, I think she looks terrific. I think she's gives a really, really powerful performance. So it's unusual to see. I think she would be in her late 30s at this point, but to see her still be kind of the lead female in this, I think is maybe a little bit against convention at the time. And obviously, Fred Astaire is maybe not stunt casting, but it is something where, also maybe 20, 25 years or so kind of from, I guess, his brightest star, and to see him play a more dramatic role. It's commonplace now, but to have people sort of play against type, but I feel like it was a little bit more uncommon then. And yeah, Gregory Peck, I like Gregory Peck a lot. It's just tough for me to buy him as a romantic lead. Like he just seems made from granite, and he's tough, and I can buy him when he's caring, but I don't know. I just feel a little uncomfortable when he's a romantic lead or a heartthrob. I totally buy him as a Navy man, but as the big romantic lead, it's a little tough. But yeah, there's a lot of other things to get into, but overall, I'm glad I watched it, even if it could be difficult to get through. How about you, Cody?
I liked it a lot actually. I'm maybe prone to like movies from this time period, so I'll pretty much like most things from the 50s in Hollywood. So I guess I'm a bit biased that way, but I'm not. I would say generally, though I'm not biased towards like quote unquote message films or films that are trying to, you know, um, persuade you of something, I guess you could say. Even if it's something I agree with, like not blowing up the planet, not having nuclear war. Although I do very much agree with that. I really liked the movie actually. Like I liked how it was focused on these characters, and you got to learn a bit about the logistics, like especially with the Navy stuff and like what they're doing. And um there was some talk about like the winds and how the winds are, I guess, protecting Australia in some way. Now I'm not sure if you guys ever heard of this book. I got my wife this book for Christmas called Nuclear War: A Scenario by, I believe the author's name is Annie Jacobson.
Yeah,
I was
she's
kind of
quite
reading
famous.
yeah, I was reading a bit of it just this weekend, just to I was just curious, after seeing this film, and there is a part in the book where they do talk about like how New Zealand, Australia will be the most safest place after nuclear war. Um, so that book was written like a year ago or a year or two ago, and this movie was made, in the late 50s, although the movie's based off a book, but I'm assuming there must have been just understanding between, military intelligence that that was the case. And so I thought that was an interesting idea to have it set in Australia. Um, as, Aside from things on the beach, like I didn't really get that it was in Australia, but it doesn't really matter. Like it's really more about how these characters are dealing with, essentially. Like I was thinking a bit about this too. Like it kind of felt like everyone was on death row, but like, but like they're not. They're just, but like that's what I imagined. Someone is like on death row, like where like you're trying to keep yourself sane, while at the same time, like you'll never be fully happy because you know what's going to happen. And um, I thought that the way that like Ava Gardner's character was handling it was like a very plausible way of doing it, like where you just basically become an alcoholic, or you're like, Gregory Peck, who what I thought was going to happen with the film, like I thought he was never going to be with Ava Gardner. I thought it was just going to be about him the whole time denying that his wife and kid are dead. But yeah, eventually he like comes to terms with it, which I thought was good because I liked seeing them in like a love, situation together. Um, Although I'll say my most favorite character is Fred Astaire's character, and I really liked that, he was able to win the race car race, and um, even the way he went out, like it kind of made sense. Like he kind of wants to go out on his own terms. He doesn't want to die of radiation poisoning or whatever the term would be, so he just kills himself with his favorite car. That's not how I would have done it personally. I probably would have just like shot myself in the head, but um, like because I don't think I think like suffocating to death would be pretty brutal, but um, yeah, it's like I kind of want to get into just a bit of back and forth with you guys because I do agree with more of what you guys are saying, although I don't I didn't find it too slow. Even though I guess it is like a slow film, like it's just a lot of conversations, but like I'm okay with movies like that. Um, yeah, I think oh, what I also really like too was just like the futile nature of their Navy mission where they go to San Francisco. The guy kind of goes a bit cuckoo and decides, he wants to die there. And then when they find out the signal, it's just like yeah, it's just like a mistake. Like it's like what was it, a Coke bottle lying on like a
Coke bottle.
on like the Morse code
Mm.
Hmm.
device. Yeah, so I thought that was a really good um again, it's a bit despairing because like Robert said before, like there is really no plot, so to speak, or there's no big plot moments, but that is certainly a plot. It's really more just demonstrating like yeah, there's nothing these Navy missions can do to really save humanity. Like they're just kind of going through the motions. Um, Even then, Yeah, like even if they were to save someone from San Francisco, so they would bring them back to Australia and then die like 6 months later, if they didn't already have radiation poisoning. Yeah. So yeah, it was just kind of a I like that sort of mission element to it because it just seemed so futile what they were doing, but at the same time, it's probably better to have a mission or things to keep yourself busy because you will actually just go crazy.
Hmm.
Thinking about the fact that you're going to die eventually, or like very shortly, not eventually, but um, yeah. So that's sort of my overall take. I don't think I've seen a Stanley Kramer film before, actually. So actually, no, that's wrong. I saw the comedy one he did,
Mad
The
Max.
Mad
Mad,
Mad
Mad,
World.
Mad World. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a good movie. I um we have covered a lot of like nuclear Holocaust films in the podcast. I think what's the one we did that reminded me more of this?
The
The
World of Flesh of the Devil.
No, that one I do recall quite well. There was
The
the one
Quiet Earth.
Quiet Earth.
Quiet
no,
Earth.
not that one. It was that British one about journalists, or maybe I'm
Oh,
Oh,
mistaken.
the Day the
Earth
Earth
Dies
caught
Spring.
fire.
The
Oh,
Day
Day
the
the Earth
Earth
caught
Caught
fire.
Fire. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, that one. Yeah. So in terms of like those kind of movies, I preferred this take on it to that film. Yeah. The ones we've seen. So
Yeah. Well, this is the big A picture. I
yeah,
mean, I'm not saying
yeah,
you like it because it was the A picture, but this was the big A picture with big stars.
Yeah, I looking at it today. If you're making this kind of a message picture, I mean, we've seen a few of those in the late 90s, early 2000s. I think like Erin Brockovich, all those big message movies that are actually based on real life cases. But imagine getting, Gregory Peck, Ava Gardner, okay, Anthony Hopkins to Tom Perkins to a lesser degree, but I think
Fred Astaire.
Fred Astaire is outstanding in this one. I didn't remember his role exactly. I remember the driving scenes and everything from the first time I saw it. But I'm watching this, putting aside the fact that none of the actors speak with an Australian accent, apart from Gregory Peck, who is obviously not Australian. But I think the temperament and the borderline alcoholism and the frustration that he has in going through it, he nails it, and he looks distinguished and yet troubled. And I think it's really an outstanding role for him. I mean, I love Fred Astaire. I love some of my most favorite musicals, the stuff that he did with Ginger Rogers. Those are like my favorite movies, and then to watch him in a dramatic role, it's really really great. And then talking about the other apocalyptic movies in the sense of endings and not necessarily nuclear war, I'm glad Quiet Earth was mentioned because again, that's an independent New Zealand movie directed by Jeff Murphy. Doesn't really involve a nuclear apocalypse, but involves something more like a interdimensional whatever thing that causes the will to switch. And again, you mentioned, I think, Robert, at the beginning that the way that he presents the scenes, Kramer, of empty cities, that is the thing that nails the message of, yeah, there's not much drama in the sense of plot because drama means conflict. The conflict here is entirely the individuals with themselves and facing extinction. It's literally the movie about the end of man. And then it reminded me again of The Children of Man, which is another outstanding
Hmm.
film. But then that's the film that completely flips the story on side of its head. And it's about the world that also has the government issued suicide pills because everybody's so depressed because children are no longer being born, the world is ending. But then it flips it completely on its head, and you actually have an anti-hero in that movie, right? Because the main character, as presented in the film rather than the novel in The Children of Men, is an anti-hero, and he basically dies in the end, but he dies and the film goes in a completely opposite direction because a child has been born and humanity will go on. But it's the world of the, let's say, late 20th century that's presented in the movie with all its immigration, pollution, overpopulation, and everything that all of a sudden becomes meaningless because humanity is dying out and leaves it on a positive note. Whereas this movie It's literally rubs in the message like, we keep going into this way, we're dead, we're done. And there's very, very few movies that actually deal with that in a completely bleak way. I would say the only other one that kind of matches the kind of anxiety, the dread anxiety of ceasing of human existence is actually Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Pulse, which is
Yeah.
supernatural horror rather than a post-apocalyptic movie, but essentially deals with the same thing. It deals with the dead taking over the world and humanity itself disappearing through a, let's say, eschatological negative turn. And
Hmm.
that movie literally had the same amount of dread. And I can imagine there's probably, if you went on a deeper dive, things are really difficult to find on the web these days because, Google is deliberately being turned into an advertising machine. If you really wanted to go and look at the reception by the audiences rather than the critics, I'm pretty sure that there would have been found some cases of severe anxiety being induced by this movie, specifically because it was the 1950s.
Hmm. Yeah, the 50s and the 80s, I think, were the big uh, nuclear anxiety eras.
Correct?
I mean, Godzilla too. I mean, that's kind of the fun version of it, but that is the nuclear anxiety too. And the other one that I know we covered in our podcast that came to mind just now was Miracle Mile. We were like, well, you're not getting out of this.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I've never seen that one. But I've read the synopsis. Yeah, it sounds amazing.
I,
It's a bit
it can be goofy at
campy.
times,
Yeah.
but
Low budget again, not a production.
Yeah, it's more just like what is happening. Like I just remember the gym scene being really campy for whatever reason. Yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of After Hours meets the Apocalypse, in my opinion.
Yeah, that sounds awesome to my book because After Hours is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I like Miracle Mile, but it's not something where I'm like thinking about nuclear war. It's more like emotional or existential, I guess. Whereas this, you like they don't really mention it that much, but like yeah, like it is a powerful movie because like if this actually shows you like plausibly like what it would be like and how it would affect like your your psyche. Like it's not showing you the gruesome stuff of all the
Hmm.
people getting blown up and all the nuclear sickness stuff, but it does show you how you would mentally process it, and that's not going to be fun
No,
either. Yeah.
no. I mean,
Like
this movie kind of starts after all of the events. It's just
yeah,
just watching it play out.
like especially Anthony Perkins' family, like that is very hard to watch because if you had a young kid and it's like all of your moments as a young father would be like I don't know, so like why teach your kids stuff if they're just gonna die in a couple months and you're gonna die too? Like are you like it would really yeah, like it's like it would suck all the joy obviously out of it and it just would tinge everything with this, horrible mark. But then at the same time, if you don't focus on what's in front of you, then you're wasting your time,
Hmm.
which you have very little of too. So it's like, yeah, it's just a weird way to live.
That's
I would, if I
that's
can
what
compare.
go ahead.
Okay, so the one thing, especially in this situation, it's similar. It's a movie by Alex Proyas, Knowing, which again is about the end of the world, but the title is where the difference is with On the Beach, because in On the Beach, we already know sort of within the first 15 minutes, that the characters are going to die, and it's about how they deal with it, how does
Hmm.
humanity deal with its own extinction. Whereas in Knowing, it's a story of two single parents who are trying to protect their children, and gradually they become aware that the world is going to end, and they are basically losing their minds because they're the only ones who actually know that. Turns out the children get saved, and it's a reboot of humanity on another paradisical planet, but it's completely flipped in the sense that okay, so these people know that they're doomed, whereas the whole planet doesn't know anything except for this one couple on the whole planet, and hence the title. It's a kind of nice juxtaposition
Mhm.
And it's got Rose Byrne, who's Australian, so there's that too.
Mhm.
That's The Knowing?
Yeah,
Oh, that sounds pretty good, actually.
yeah,
I
you
was
should watch it.
I
It's
was
it's
gonna
not
say,
a completely satisfying movie, but I thought it's got value in it.
Hmm.
Yeah, the one thing I would have liked them to have brought up, but they really did, is that everybody kind of grimly accepts their fate, what's going to happen to them. I wish there was like a faction there that was saying, "I'm not going to accept it. I'm going to rage against the dying of the light. We're headed to Antarctica or something." Or just the young people are rebelling, just something to create a little bit of conflict here. But I mean, that's not the story they're telling, and I get that, and it's a choice they made, and I respect the choice. I just kind of wish that was there or addressed in some way there.
I like that, and I like how everyone more or less kind of gets along or maintains some degree of like um a social contract in this. Like there isn't as much fighting among the people, like either physically or even that much emotionally. A lot of the struggles, I think, are just purely contained within each individual character, like Gregory Peck not being able to admit that his family's dead, and obviously Ava Gardner's Moira being an alcoholic, and like they each kind of struggle with like how they deal with it, but there's not like a threat from other people, and they seem
No.
to get along and cooperate more than I would expect to see in like any other post-apocalyptic movie or one that I can recall. But I mean, like they each person sort of like finds their own little bits of pleasure, obviously with Fred Astaire and the racing, or when they do the whole race, the other people who just will crash and burn and die because they
They
want
don't
to go
care.
out. Well, and it's a way to go out. It's like, here's
Yeah.
something that I love. I'm gonna go out with a bang. And even I'm not sure what the guy's title is, but more or less the head of the Navy and his kind of banter with his secretary. And I think their last lines to each other were, he's like, "You want to hang out with or have a drink with the old man?" And she's like, "I want to have a drink with you." Just kind of like those sort of quiet moments of like sort of finding that bit of humanity is at least the only hope that we kind of get in this film. But I like that so many of the struggles are just purely internal, because there's not much externally they can do. But also they're not struggling against like other people. And yeah, I really like that perspective.
Yeah, there's no Marauders of the Wastelands that they have
Mhm.
to deal with.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
when they're fighting for gas. Like this
Yeah.
is in Australia, no less.
Again, another post-apocalyptic movie with a societal collapse rather than nuclear war, but they kind of they actually refitted it in the second in the Road Warrior. They kind of suggested there was a nuclear war after all, whereas
Hmm.
the original inspiration for Mad Max was the Belgian comic book called Jeremiah, which was about a race war in the United States, and then
Oh,
that
really?
led to this. Yeah, correct. That led to the societal collapse, and George Miller somehow knew about this comic book, and he actually wanted to do a adaptation, but I guess he couldn't get the rights or whatever, and so he just wrote his own little post-apocalyptic. Yeah, this is why you see the police, and the police is outnumbered. It's about the gradual collapse of the society. But then in the second one, there's that video montage that suggests, oh, after all, there is a nuclear war. And then you go to the Beyond the Thunderdome, which basically inspired a lot of visuals and a lot of inside jokes in the Fallout series of video games, Fallout 1 and 2 especially, when you know that it just ripped everything they could lay their hands on from Mad Max. So this is why I love the post-nuclear dystopia rather than post-apocalyptic, because if we get onto the meaning of what apocalypse means, it just means revelation. So there's a conflation of the titles, but then when you get to the movies like this one, On the Beach or Knowing, then you can literally talk about post-apocalyptic, because to them what has been revealed, it's literally the end of the world. You are dying. how do you deal with this as a human being? And this is what I find so fascinating about this movie. And you also raised some good points about those quiet moments that emphasize the humanity and what is going to be lost. And again, I think he really goes like nailing the message to the wall with those musical accents and that editing
Yeah.
move
Yeah.
forward at the end. It's like, yes, we got the message. I mean, but it's still
There's still
brutal.
time, brother.
It's correct. There's time. No, time is just expired. Time is like 16:30 yesterday.
Well, for the audience, there's still time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I thought Anthony Perkins was actually pretty good in it. I don't know like what other movies he was in around this time. I know like the trial was in the 61, right?
Yeah.
That
And
was shot
Psycho
at
is
home in
60.
Yugoslavia. The trial was
Yeah,
shot at
Psycho
home in
was
Yugoslavia.
60. Yeah. So I feel like
The Tin Star, I kind of remember him. I think it was the Tin Star, where he's like a deputy that's being taught by a really rough and ready lawman on how to hang gangsters, and he's kind of the young innocent that has to toughen up. Yes, is one that I
right.
remember.
See, I think he was fine in this. I wouldn't say he's against type because I don't know if he had a type yet. By the 80s, he had a type.
Yes.
And the type was like being weird or whatever.
Psycho.
Right? Yeah, but like remember in China Moon, like or China Blue, whatever that film was called by Ken Russell, where he plays the weird priest. Man,
Yep.
he's
No,
crazy in that
Crimes of
movie.
Passion. Crimes of
Yes,
Passion.
sorry. Yeah, sorry.
He,
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Crimes
He
of
literally
Passion, yeah.
worked. He worked to his screen persona that was based on the Psycho, but overblown. That was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, but like here, I feel like he's doing a good job as just like a family man, and
Yeah.
man, does he look he or well, I should say Andrew Garfield is so much like young Anthony Perkins.
I
Like
never even
they're
thought of that. Yeah.
they're so
Yeah.
similar in their mannerisms and look. But overall, for me, like I feel like the character I get the most, like I would feel the most closest with would be Fred Astaire because I don't know if I would handle it too well. I'd probably become an alcoholic and I'd probably do something like that. Like I'd probably do something where I'm like, yeah, I need to do something or where my quote unquote normal life I would have never done. Yeah, I like fast cars. Like I like nice cars. Will I ever buy one or get one? No, it's completely impractical. I can't afford it. But if the world was going to end like in 6 months, I would probably want to do what he did. I probably wouldn't kill myself the way he did, but I would definitely do something like that because, yeah, like you might as well.
He
And
also
whereas like,
has.
oh, sorry, go ahead. No?
Oh, I was gonna say he also is interesting, and I don't think they get into this that much, but they do at least in the beginning that he's kind of the one of the main characters who at least has some guilt about what's happening because he's somewhat
Oh, a
responsible.
scientist, right?
True.
Yeah,
No,
Yes.
no. He
Yeah.
actually says there is a line. He says, "Well, I helped build them."
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
hmm But I feel like a lot of the, at least in the second half of the movie, or I guess after, the sub expedition, it does seem more like how he's dealing with his final moments. But it does give, I guess, some context as to why he's an alcoholic. And there is
Hmm.
kind of a not necessarily a death wish, but a sort of carelessness or abandonment of life beyond just kind of this beyond the car. And there is that really nice scene between he and Ava Gardner where he talks about being in love with her and would he still love her if things were different and that he has kind of like abandoned his humanity, which I assume is meant to be like sort of a penance for some of that. But again, it doesn't get into that as much. But I think that is sort of a more interesting aspect of his character.
Hmm.
Sarah
Robert's
wanted to
wife.
comment.
I don't know how many films in the 50s I could probably I should probably know this, but not many films would show suicide on screen. So I think that was a
Mhm.
bit of an impactful thing for that time as well. Like, they'd show people getting gunned down and stuff, but it's a bit more harsh to see like someone, kill themselves
Hmm.
in the way he did. Um, and then I think the scene when that I also felt would have been really impactful for, let's just say, North Americans at that time, or Americans, would have been when Anthony Perkins is talking about those pills, and he's being very practical, and just brings up to his wife and says, like, look, like, if I'm not back in time, like, I need you to take these pills so then you'll be okay to, like, you'll die in an okay way. And then she's like, well, what about our child? Like, I'm gonna be dead. And he's like, no, you're gonna give them to the child first, and then take them. Like, it was just a really morbid
Mhm.
but practical, and
Hmm.
and in my opinion rational. Like, if you're gonna die anyway, and you maybe do it this way instead of a different way. But um, yeah, so I thought that would have been a very good scene, but hard scene for families to watch. Especially fathers, let's say in the 50s, where like the height of, well,
Baby
I'm not
boom.
sure. Like, I'm not sure when the fever broke with like the nuke stuff with the U.S. and Soviet Union. Like, was it in the mid 60s or?
Probably the early 60s after the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
like
Okay.
63 or
Yeah.
62.
Right. And then everyone forgot about that because of JFK getting murdered.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
So,
also there was a bit of a detente after, there was a bit of a detente during the post-Cuban period all the way until Brezhnev got in. And then once Brezhnev got in, they locked things down again. And then the peak of the Cold War was basically 1984, 83, 84. It was the Able Archer, which a lot of the people don't know about, which is when the Soviets used their, let's say, algorithm, which was being done by a massive computer looking at like 150 indicators, and they were convinced that the NATO is going to do a first strike. So
oh,
they basically got their forces ready, and they were ready to like fire all the missiles. But then the US got back from their own sources the intelligence that the Soviets are gearing up for a strike because they thought they were going to get attacked. So they made sure that it was around Thanksgiving. They made sure that Margaret Thatcher was very visible on the weekend, and Ronald Reagan was very visible and pardoning the turkeys. So then the Soviets figured out, okay, well, if they're not hiding in a shelter, then maybe this is really just a military exercise. So yeah, that
hmm,
was the high point of the Cold War, and after that, it all went downhill for the Soviets.
hmm. Right. Okay. So yeah, like this is a time where people, and again, I don't know like if people worrying about it would have made a difference to the government. Um, and I'm not sure. Like, I do feel like this movie was really good for its time in the same way that like Doctor Strangelove was very good for its time. Like,
Not
and
that far, not that much later.
yeah, and
Right.
they both kind of tackle the issues, but in different ways. My preference is the sort of Doctor Strangelove way to do it, but that's just because I don't like feeling real emotions and being honest. Uh, but like this one for me is more like, both films make you think like, hey, let's pump the brakes about this type of stuff, right? But like, yeah, but this one I feel like kind of hits you at like a deeper level. And I think it's just because of how it shows you like the psychological impact of it. And I think there's other methods to go about it too that would work. Like, I remember what was that film? I think it came around the same time. Hiroshima Mon Amour. Like that
Oh,
one's more
really?
like, yeah, like that one's more like surreal, or not, well, not surreal, but it's more like figurative. But there is a lot of scenes of the after effect of Hiroshima in that film, and they're pretty hard to watch. Um, and I feel like that one, also gets across a bit the same idea, but it's more of a love story. It's very opaque. It's not really, as dramatic as this one. but this is the kind of like this is like a really good, in my opinion, like a good way to do a message picture because it's really just about showing you how people are dealing with it or how they might deal with it.
Hmm.
And there's not really any nations left after that. It's like,
No,
what did this prove? Where
Yeah,
like you're
yeah,
reminded that
that's a
you're
good
in
point.
Australia, but
there's
it's
no winners.
yeah,
There's no winners. Everybody's a loser.
and
Now you
that's the
bring
thing
me to
I
War
go ahead.
Game. You bring us to War Game, which is another Australian film director.
Hmm.
Remember?
Australia is really on
Yeah.
this topic here.
Yeah.
Australia thinks about these
John
things
Badham.
heavily.
John Badham, 1980. This is 1983,
Yeah.
I guess,
Yeah.
War Game. Yeah.
Oh,
Awesome.
that film.
This
Yeah,
is
yeah,
this is a strange game. The only way to win is not to play it.
yeah.
No, let's play global thermonuclear war.
But I mean that even deals with like, that's not apocalyptic. That's like here's
Correct.
how to prevent this. Dr. Strangelove is also like simple idiocy can lead to this and just
Yeah.
morons
You know,
on either side or
War Game is kind of the first AI film.
Mhm. But even this is like what would it even prove? Like what would there be accomplished if there's nothing left for anyone to say I won. And in the end, like people actually are cooperating. So maybe that's the good thing. But yeah, there's Australia, but it's Australia more as a continent, and the importance of it is just like this massive land that is geographically located away from the fallout, rather than like the Australian
Hmm.
government had anything
Yeah.
superior to do or say. And the navies are mixing with each other, and there's they try to maintain some degree of like rank among this, but it doesn't really matter, and everyone kind of acknowledges that. So it is kind of neat just showing like here's the consequences and what have you won by
Hmm.
having any nuclear war at all.
You know what's
Yeah.
interesting? Yes, I agree with what you're saying there completely. What I liked about the beginning part where it showed everyone riding the bikes. I don't
Mhm.
know if I think I'd probably complain to Robert and Nat about Toronto traffic, but it would be cool if we pretended like we were in nuclear fallout and just stopped using gas and then just had to use bikes. I think that would be cool.
But I still want to grill on sure.
No, I kind of wonder. My understanding is this was a truly international production, and they had cooperation from the Australian Navy in making this. So I kind of feel like, the before the camera is actually reflected behind the camera. So I think that's an interesting point of this, and like people cared and worked on it. Though it's I don't know how much the U.S. military itself did. I don't think that's a U.S. sub, but I think that's uh, you
I,
know
I believe they
it's
were denied use of U.S. ships by
Correct.
the U.S. government in this.
It
So
was a British Navy submarine, HMS Andrew.
mm.
Man, Eisenhower didn't like it, I guess.
No.
I guess the other point I wanted to bring up is I kind of feel that though I think he's fine. I feel like that Gregory Peck is the one that's kind of the most miscast in this film. 'Cause I want something between him and Ava Gardner, and I don't know if Gregory Peck is ever capable of really giving it. I mean, he's really good at say To Kill a Mockingbird, and he's the other kind of romantic thing is what you want Gregory Peck in. Maybe he cared and he was like, I'm all in on this story, so I want to do it. But
I'm pretty sure that was it. I also think, and I don't know what film caused this, he was very good friends with Ava Gardner. Like they were never romantic, I don't think. They were very good friends, just in their personal lives. Because they were in a Hemingway adaptation
For whom the
of,
bell tolls.
no, it's another one, I think.
Cabin.
Snows of Kilimanjaro.
Yeah, Snows of Kilimanjaro. That's the one I've seen with them. And I think they were like quite close friends, but I actually thought he was very believable in it. And maybe it's because he was playing a guy who was a bit reserved. In general, I do like him in roles where he's playing like I think this is what Nat was getting at. He's more playing like a sort of just like a son of a bitch, like just
Or
more
Bubble
of
just,
Sock
like
High, or
well, kind of
well,
like more a tough guy, but
yeah,
like,
like I liked yeah, it's like my favorite role or film that he's in is the Guns of Navarone.
oh
And he's
yeah.
got so many lines in the film where he's just telling people to shut up. He's calling people stupid or um, just has a lot of good one-liners, and he's very like short off. Um, very very stoic. Like I guess like a bit of like a classic Hemingway character, I guess. Um, although a bit more ruder. But I thought he worked in this. For me, like I thought he was believable. I thought they had pretty good chemistry. Um, Ava Gardner is someone who I do think, is like very pretty, obviously, but she's someone who I never remember what she looks like
Hmm.
until like I kind of see her, and she does actually have a unique look. Like is she quite tall?
I've
Like she
never
looks
met
like
her
kind
in
of like an
person, but
Amazon. Well, of course, yes, but like she looks like she's like very big and broad. Um,
Mhm.
She's
like
curvaceous. That's how she's described in the casting notes. Like because the
yeah, no,
original
I
character
yeah,
she's based on the book is different.
yeah. Like I remember her in The Killers. Like yeah, she's a really good femme fatale. But yeah, she seems just like a really almost like not that glamorous, like almost kind of like an every woman a bit. Like yeah, she's quite pretty, but I do think she has a unique look to her.
and
Even though I can't
yeah.
remember what she looks like, but
I also I think, she's, I don't want to say like not in her prime, but I think she is older than I guess what your standard leading lady would have been
Mhm.
at this time, and maybe is a little bit more puffy. I mean, still very striking, but I don't think she's meant to be like drop dead gorgeous, but more somebody who is kind of given up a little bit. And I
Yeah.
think I think that works um
I
really
kind
well
of get a
for her.
little bit of Elizabeth Taylor and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf
Yeah.
in her performance. Not to that degree, but
No, but that kind of idea,
yeah.
or that archetype. Yeah. And for Gregory Peck too, like yeah, again, I don't buy him as a leading man, but I can buy his performance here because he is holding back, and I buy the stuff where he's talking about his family who's died
hmm
more, and that really holding him back. But then when they get together on the farm and embrace there, that's when it kind of loses me in terms of their chemistry.
I
Oh,
think that
that's the best
that
part.
the reservation and the possible explanation for miscasting might come down to the fact that the major plot, well, personal plot line for him is that there's a romantic involvement in the film, which is not in the book, and actually that led to the major split between Neville Shute, the author of the book, and Kramer. And
Mhm.
Mm.
that
Oh,
split
okay.
that split basically led to the end of the collaboration and Schute's involvement in the film, because in the book he basically remains absorbed in his loss and the memory of his wife, and nothing ever happens, even though it's suggested that she would want to be involved in a relationship, but he stays completely reserved throughout. And that kind of reservation is literally probably built into the character, which is maybe why it was originally cast.
Well, is that I guess did that change? Was that change in the script like
Yeah,
after they
it was
cast
Kramer's. It was
Peck?
Kramer's. I wouldn't know when it was done, but it was probably literally right before the shooting commenced,
Okay.
because shoot was involved up until some point during the production. Then he just took off and said he didn't want to do anything with it. So
Hmm.
maybe there was some script
Oh,
changes. So that means there might have been some script changes going on within the first couple of weeks of shooting, probably.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
kind of
again,
wonder if that's
yeah,
reflected in the end too, because I kind of think, well,
yes, most likely,
why doesn't he
Yeah.
take Ava Gardner with him?
Yeah, what's he got to lose?
correct.
Right. Well, so in the book, is he still set up with her? Because they keep it as kind of like here she can entertain him. Not that
Yeah,
they're really looking for them to make a connection, but it's more like, hey, here's a companion.
yeah. I'm
Okay.
guessing so because I haven't read the book, but I'm
Oh,
guessing
okay.
that was the case, and it just decided to expand it because
Hmm.
they have two hot stars. Let's say they were stars at the time, so like let's go with it. It's melodrama after all.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I know it was quite successful. So,
Was
Ava
it?
Gardner, yes, it was. I'd have to look up the. I
I thought
think
it
like
lost money.
five. I think it made like 5 million. I think it grossed something like that. I
On
had
the
the notes
beach?
home. Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm looking at Wikipedia and I see box office is 2.2 million against a 2.9 million budget.
Well, maybe Wikipedia is correct because that's probably more up to date than my reference.
I mean, I can't see this being like the feel-good hit of the year. I think it was
But it
nominated
wasn't an
for,
event film though.
yeah, I think it was nominated for best editing and best scoring. I would like to talk a little bit more about the music or at least some of the sound cues, but
They
yeah.
overdo Waltzing Matilda. That's what I comment.
I I yes. But again, it kind of works. Like those are the moments where I feel it's jolting you into like remembering, hey, this is the world that we're in. Like when they first go to San Francisco and when they'll cut to like a shot of a abandoned street corner or whatever, they'll just hit you with like a huge bang and sometimes it'll be part of the score, sometimes it'll just be like this loud sound. And then they'll go back to the submarine and then they'll go back to street corner, loud bang. And they do that also at the ending, where they're like slowly doing cuts as they close in on the banner with just like those really loud jarring bangs. And it's like um it's I don't know, not irritating, but it's definitely jarring when they do that. It's like aggressively loud, just as Waltzing Matilda is like aggressively repetitive in that.
Yeah, and they actually have that one scene where it's actually being sung. It's not
Hmm.
it's incidental music, not transcendental. I think that actually the theme worked really at the ending before we cut away from the submarine departing for S- North America, and
Hmm.
the theme playing, which basically reoccurs at least four times in the movie, I think, and each time it's a slightly different orchestration.
Hmm.
But then because it creates a mellow moment before they're really, really aggressively jarring, like, I'm nailing my message to the wall with this
Yeah.
musical accent. It's the end of the world.
Yeah. And only you can prevent it. But
Brother, there's still time.
yeah, no sisters though. It's we men who have
Nope.
to.
Yeah, that brings me again. No sisters, like that the gender roles and the treatment and even the slapstick with the literal he takes the paddle and fucking whacks Ava Gardner on the ass after she overturned the boat. And like this will not fly today in a serious message picture.
Maybe in
Yeah, probably
Australia.
not. Yeah.
But you know, you
Definitely
know,
not.
you know, how much did Oppenheimer make? And that's about as commercial as this. Maybe.
Yeah,
Well, you got nudity in Oppenheimer, so
yeah. Barely.
You know,
Yeah,
I like
Oppenheimer
Christopher Nolan,
though.
but he's not a sexy filmmaker.
No, yeah. I see. I agree. I think like that movie though, for me, I don't it's more about like the process and like the sort of team and like the sort of cracking the problem. I don't like it's kind of dumb. I don't see that one as like a nuclear war film, I guess.
Not really.
Um,
I thought it was a very good historical, let's say, historical biographical picture, to
yeah,
use the
yeah,
proper American
yeah.
term. But I found that the hype that was showered upon it to be just a little bit too much. What I did enjoy in Oppenheimer, again, their historical elements. I think we kind of mentioned this in the pre-recording phase. It's they nailed the character of Edward Teller. Edward Teller, who basically plays a major villain, because it suggested that Teller could have exonerated Oppenheimer of the accusations that he was, fellow traveler or
Right.
whatever, even though he was
Yeah.
a card-carrying member of the Communist Party for one while. And it is suggested that Teller did it out of advantage because he saw Oppenheimer as a much more talented competitor, and basically it is suggested that he did it on purpose, and he it makes him the villain of the movie. But in historical terms, Teller is the father of the hydrogen bomb. Teller is the father of the strategy of the United States nuclear deterrence. So all those things work for me, but artistically, I found the movie to be falling flat. I mean, I love The Dark Knight. I love that. That is my favorite Batman movie. All the things that he did, but I'm not the biggest Christopher Nolan fan. So you can
Yeah.
nail things correctly, and you can still fail artistically.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Um, so 1959, though, that was a pretty good year for film, I would say.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Anatomy of a Murder as well.
Well, there's a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
good movies
Otto
in this
Preminger. Oh
year.
yes, Otto
Yeah,
Preminger. I love the movie.
I do too.
No, there's like tons of good movies this year. Like Some Like It Hot.
That's another classic.
Hmm.
There's Ben-Hur. Not that I'm
Ben-Hur,
like the
yeah.
biggest Ben-Hur fan.
North by Northwest.
Yeah, North by
Oh yeah.
Northwest.
And let
Well,
us not forget, more importantly, Kim Novak and Rock Hudson and the Pillow Talk.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there you
Yeah.
go.
The Shaggy Dog.
No, like there's a lot. Like I'm gonna go through the list here. What else? Okay, 400 Blows, Wild Strawberries. Well, I like this film. Some Came Running. I'm not sure if other people like it. Or wait, was that this year? No, I'm not sure. Um,
Revenge of
Some
Yeah.
Frankenstein.
Sleeping Beauty.
yeah,
That's a good one.
it was a crazy year for film.
Carry On Nurse.
I'm not sure actually why it was nominated for film editing. Do you guys have any idea why that
Actually,
would be?
I do want to add too, The World of Flesh and the Devil was also 1959.
Yeah, there we go.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Sorry, what were you going to say, Cody?
Oh, what? Yeah, so why do you guys think it was nominated for Best Editing? I know that's the year that um Ben-Hur won for Best Editing, which I could see the case for
I can
that
understand that. Yeah.
because of the
Cherry
chariot
River.
scene. Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's that
Um,
cold open.
really?
No, but it is unusual to see. Like I
Yeah.
was watching this on Tubi, as I imagine all of us were, and I
I
did have
was
to
I
double
was
check
watching it
and
on
see.
Prime.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Same.
But the Tubi transfer can't beat it. But no, I did have to check the first time to see like, okay, did it skip like opening credits or title or anything like that? And then no, it just gets right into it.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I
Final
don't know.
thing, or I guess final thing from me. I'm not sure if you guys know this album "On the Beach" by Neil Young. Do you think it's a reference to the film? And because it's a bit of a depressing album, so to speak.
I would imagine
Um,
so. I did look up, I guess the on the beach refers to, I think it's Australian or at least like British naval lingo for retirement.
hmm,
Yeah,
I
pretty
see.
much. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But I would suspect Neil Young would be more familiar with this movie than he would with British naval slang.
Yeah.
Well, you never know.
Maybe.
Rio Bravo, 1959. Imitation of
Correct.
Life, 1959.
Darby
Holy
O'Gill and the
crap.
Little People.
Hound of the Baskervilles.
Yeah.
Hiroshima Mon Amour.
Bucket of Blood.
Bucket
Bucket
of
of
Blood's
Blood.
good.
What else? This is a crazy year. It's like maybe the best year of film.
What's is 12 Angry Men 57?
No,
Yeah, I think
that's
so.
like really?
Yeah, I think
57?
so.
Hmm.
The Defiant Ones, I think, was this year.
Plan
Or
9
maybe
from Outer
not.
Space.
Sorry. Hidden Fortress. That was from 58. So is Some Came Running. So I was wrong about Some Came Running. Oh, wow. Wow, yeah. Great year. Cool.
I feel like years that end in 9 are pretty solid for film.
39,
Mm,
59, 99.
Yeah.
You're good. You're in good shape.
2019, 2009.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. People
I
are
don't
like,
know. I
I
gotta
gotta
check
get
that
my
out.
big film in for before the new decade.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're kind of wrapping up. Now that we're just talking about
Oh wait, actually I do have some questions as we have multiple scientists on here. So I did a little of my own research But I guess in terms of like how Fallout and the migratory patterns of Fallout are represented in this movie, I guess is fairly inaccurate, and that this is prior to, I guess, the discovering of nuclear winter. But
Yeah.
anything anyone wants to say about the accuracy or plausibility of this scenario?
You
My
mean the spread of the nuclear fallout from north to south?
Hmm.
yeah, my understanding is that it generally the my meteorology class I took in college basically had like circle from the uh I guess it is counterclockwise from the pole to the equator.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's the doldrums. It's the effect of the
Yeah.
winds going in opposite direction, which creates a dead zone around the equator. So it's partially correct that that thing would slow down the spread, but like I said, we know that the real killer would be nuclear winter. But the thing is, in the book, it's not thermonuclear war. Basically, United States and whoever NATO Pact, Soviet Union, they basically all use cobalt bombs, which cause an inordinate large amount of radiation and nuclear fallout. Which is the reason why the book picked that one particularly, because he wanted to nail down the effect, to give that slow spread burn, which allowed him to develop the plot of the book. So Shoot definitely did put some thought into this. What I find funny is that the World War II actually the book starts by Albania declaring war on Italy.
Hmm.
In the remake, the truth be told, it is of course U.S., China, and Taiwan.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, which I think is plausible.
I won't go into that because unfortunately I occasionally have to think about that.
Well, it's more plausible than like, I don't know, uh,
Albania?
Albania
Albania, yeah,
bombing
yeah, Albania, correct.
Nigeria.
Italy, Italy,
Yeah.
Italy, Italy. Oh, God, oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that. Now I'm gonna have to find and read the book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
but
right.
in terms of other scientific things, yeah, mm, dying from radiation poisoning is horrible. Basically, because your cells break down and your body stops functioning, but you're still alive because it's gradually organ by organ stops functioning, and you are alive all throughout. So it's
Oh God.
literally,
Yeah.
yeah, it's horrible, and this is why the whole suicide pill is highly realistic. That's one thing that is not realistic. What is most unrealistic is the Schutz's idea that society would remain very stoic and stagnant, but then um, it's because Schutz wanted to concentrate on the personal and not the
Hmm.
societal. It's like, how does an individual deal with the extinction? That's something that the individual mind cannot grasp, and yet I think he did it quite well. Whereas in the remake, they of course went the opposite way, and they went for the whole societal collapse angle. And I would just like to throw in, I know it's not a movie, it's definitely should be made. In any of the number of Michael Moorcock novels written in the 1960s during the heyday of the British science fiction new wave, you have multiple versions of whether caused by war or a pandemic or space alien invasion, that there's always a societal collapse, and he particularly relished describing different subcultural teenage gangs that occur and develop. And this is why one of the probably most unrealizable ideas is for somebody to make an adaptation of his Jerry Cornelius series of novels,
Hmm.
which basically it's imagine Austin Powers um, crossed with something with the element of time travel and multiverse theory, and then a lot of like drugs and very very bleak perspectives on the humanity. It would be total shit show, but like considering some movies that get made lately, I think it's actually feasible.
Hmm.
I know of that only through the later issues of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah, where basically Cornelius is mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's a recurring character.
Oh, I didn't know that. I only read the first series. And again, as I mentioned in my earlier career, we almost distributed the League of Gentlemen. So,
Ah,
yeah.
Mm.
Hmm.
Which, by the way, is a horrible film.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But the comic book is great.
Yeah.
So.
Good books.
Yeah, it's got great design and everything, but in terms of the story and why, I don't know why this is hilarious.
All right. Well, I think we can wrap it up there, and then we'll move to Robert for his um,
Next month's film pick.
next month's film. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do have next month's film, and I intend to bring along a guest too. I think I'll go to the guest first and then the film. Our guest will be Hunter Fagan from the recently ended Disorder podcast and the still running Rib Grading Hosts. Um, and we've done Jules Verne related podcasts with our previous Disorder guests. So I'm continuing that by bringing 1961's Mysterious Island to the table with Ray Harryhausen's special effects. So a lot
Awesome.
lighter than On the Beach.
We'll see.
I don't think we've done Ray Harryhausen on the podcast proper before.
No, I don't think so.
I think we've written about him, but I don't think we've covered any Harryhausen.
I don't think so either.
We haven't done Earth versus the Flying Saucers.
No, we've gotten close.
We haven't done The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms.
Except for you and I saw it at the Patio Theater that one time, and we talked about it afterwards, but that's not podcast proper.
Yeah.
You didn't record that conversation?
We did.
We did.
Oh, you did?
Just didn't listen, Cody.
Oh. Oops.
Cool.
So,
Cool.
Yeah, this will be fun, and we'll have a fun guest, I believe, and we'll talk about Ray Harryhausen and a special secret guest that will show up in that film.
Can I use that as like the tagline when I do the cover for it, like featuring Hunter Fagan, a fun guest, I think. Quote Robert Reineke.
You're in charge of the covers, Nat.
Okay, well then we'll see.
As long as it doesn't have a typo in it, that's okay.
If I remember, shots fired. No. Fair enough.
And thank you, Miloš, for coming on. I mean, it's been a very good podcast. You've been a great guest.
Absolute pleasure. I really, really appreciate being invited, and thank you. The conversation was wonderful.
Okay. So hopefully our listeners find the conversation wonderful. Please feel free to send us an email at skyespodcast@gmail.com, or you can leave us a note on the Facebook page. And also feel free to share a link on social media. Thanks for listening. We hope you'll join us next month for Mysterious Island. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Jumped the swagman and grabbed him with glee, and he sang as he shoved that jumper in his tucker bag. You'll come waltzing Matilda with me, waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda. You'll come waltzing Matilda with me, and he sang as he shoved that jumper in his tucker bag. You'll come waltzing Matilda with me. Up rode the sportster, mouth on thoroughbred. Down came the troopers, 1, 2, 3. Who's the jolly jumper? Give up into your tucker bag. You'll come waltzing Matilda with me. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda. You'll come waltzing Matilda with me. And who's the jolly jumper? Give up into your tucker bag. You'll come waltzing Matilda with me. Swagman sprang into the billabong. You'll never catch me alive, said he, and his toast may be heard as you pass by the billabong. You'll come waltzing Matilda with me, waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda. You'll come waltzing Matilda with me, and his toast may be heard as you pass by the billabong. You'll come waltzing Matilda with me.
Watch the skies everywhere. Keep looking. Keep watching the skies.